Y'all
We're
all
releasing
got
you
ROR.
from custody. Thank you so very, very much.
You know, you play.
All right, where's my
I think
shoes?
we need to do a VAC on you.
Rowdy inmates, I tell you. This was great. So, in working through that, as we did with the first one, was there anything in the second one that you saw that might have been done a little bit differently? Yes. Who are you and where are you from?
I'm Derek from Virginia County Detention Center.
Cool.
Is there a way, I know we had a situation similar to that, we actually had the nurse go and meet them while they were actually over by the intake. That way we get as much information before they even get to.
So the nurse actually came to the intake area to get all that information.
Correct.
Wonderful. That's excellent. So before they even get inside the door. Yes?
When the individuals presented call for the first time, maybe you may want to prompt the arresting officer to give them a mask.
Have the officer give them a mask?
Right, the arresting officer, because you transport them to the facility, you don't know how many people or how many places they have to sit until they get to that booking.
Absolutely. And that's a great scenario. That's one of the things that in one facility, they actually went a little bit further and they said, if you had, they went and talked to the arresting officers, the street cops, and actually said, if you got somebody that's really coughing and hacking, you know, put a mask on them. And so one of the things that we developed in our community, in our county, was actually a bloodborne pathogens kit. And they kept that mask and gloves and things like that in the back of their squad car. So they'd have that, and they could do that, and they could radio ahead and say, I got this guy that's, you know, just being obnoxious. So those are some real issues. And it helped because they wouldn't have to go and sit at the hospital trying to get this guy evaluated. They could bring them into the jail adequately. As long as somebody knows the protection to take, that's an important piece. Anything else?
At that point, when the arresting officer was there, they didn't know that she was coughing a lot.
I can hardly hear you.
At the point of where the officer brought her in and recognized that she was coughing a lot.
Uh-huh.
And after the nurse did everything, she came back and the health department returned the phone call and said, yes, she was TB positive. At that time, we could go back and do a test on the officer as well.
Absolutely. That might be part of the contact investigation. But the good part is it wouldn't include all those other inmates unless the airflow went from that cell to that cell. And over a certain period of time. It takes time to get infected with TB. It doesn't happen just over a period of 5 minutes. It takes sometimes up to 6 hours if you're sitting in a holding cell. And if you're real quiet, and for the period of time that we had to give you this skit, we weren't able to show over a time-elapsed period. Sometimes it's the drunk that's sitting there snoring like crazy in the cell is the last person to be processed. Everybody else gets processed and has already been exposed, and now he finally gets processed, something like that. So yes.
What if an arresting officer, within a week period of time, arrests 3 people, the same officer, and all 3 have a bad cough? Would he be tested?
He would be probably tested during the contact investigation if those 3 were screened and were found to have TB. That officer should be named as part of that contact investigation, absolutely. And like I said, this is a 3-day course. Those are some elements that are critical to a good contact investigation. Look everywhere. Look at not just the airflow or the officer that arrested them, how long were they actually sitting in that car with that officer? How long were they sitting in a drunk tank downtown before they actually got transported to the jail. Those are all elements that have to be asked. Those are all questions that need to be asked during a contact investigation. And I can tell you, public health won't think to ask them because they don't realize the system flow that happens. And so you in corrections, you in custody, have to be the ones that put your heads together to say, these are all the places that need to be tested. But if you don't know about a contact investigation, how are you going to do that? If you don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for, how are you going to do that? So that's why it is so important to learn certain aspects of contact investigation. You don't need to know everything about TB, but there are certain pieces that everybody needs to have. Does that help? A little bit? This was a great, great scenario. You guys really helped bring it all together. And I can't thank you enough for that, because what we hope to do, as I said, okay, let me fix my hair now. What we hope to do is actually do this a little more professionally, okay? We'll find a fairly decent inmate. Sammy Sneezy isn't always that drunk. But what we'll do is we'll bring it together so that it's like a 15-minute skit for your officers to see in intake. Is that mine or? Oh. See? Fleeting moments. Gotta love it. But do you think that something like that could help? Let me tell you, using just those scenarios, the 2 officers that we've used in conjunction with that, we did a training, and about 3 months later, they had somebody that came in and they put that into their policies and tried it. They had somebody that came in that looked really horrible. The next day, the nurse called the health department. That person had not taken their TB meds for 3 months, had active disease, and now it was drug resistant. Because they did that and put them in a segregation area, they actually took the contact investigation from what could have been 35 people down to 2 people. And neither one of those 2 people actually converted their skin test. So it works. And that's what putting your heads together does. Because it wasn't me that came up with this. It was a bunch of officers, all of us sitting around and saying, okay, what can we do differently? So we're here to help